All right, hello and welcome to our latest edition of Divorcing Dilemmas. My name is Amanda Porter. I'm a family law attorney, and every month in Divorcing Dilemmas, we interview a professional who may have information that is helpful to people who are going through a divorce. So today I have with us Jenny McBride McNamara from Touching Trees Counseling and Relationship Services. Welcome, Jenny. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great. So what we'll be talking about today is some tips for how to deal with people with personality disorders. And Jenny will talk about this a little bit more, I'm sure, but what we mean by that is narcissism, borderline personality disorder, that kind of thing, not anxiety or some of the more normal ones. And just some tips for dealing with that, because unfortunately, one of the reasons we're talking about this is if you have children with someone who has a personality disorder, you're going to have to continue to deal with them. And there's only so much the courts can do to help make that easier. You can't go to court every time your ex is being a jerk or obnoxious. And so one of the things that I recommend to a lot of my clients is working with a therapist even to figure out how to deal with their ex when they're being very difficult. So Jenny, talk to us a little bit more about some tips for how do we deal with these people who have these personality disorders.
Thank you. I would love to. Let me first just give a little background. So narcissistic personality disorder, if you haven't already researched the heck out of it, is a personality disorder of someone who has sort of grandiose ideas and they can never lose an argument. That's how they kind of show up. Borderline personality disorder is characterized by a sense of push and pull, like they push you away and then they pull you really close and push you and pull. And so they're a different type of personality disorder to get along with. What they both share and what makes it so difficult to deal with people like that in the divorce process is that they have two qualities: a lack of empathy and inflexibility. And so you will find that you're not getting any empathy out of someone who has these traits, and they're not being very flexible with you. I will say that as much as we know all this information about personality disorders, and it's very easy to find those parts of our exes that have those traits, them having an actual diagnosis doesn't matter. What you need to know as someone who's dealing with somebody like that is that how you respond to them, you respond to them as if they've had a diagnosis, knowing that they won't, because they won't. No judge is going to make them go, right? And then they're not going to sit through it. So
I think that is important in that whether they would officially be diagnosed or not, if you're experiencing narcissistic behavior from them or borderline personality behavior from them, it doesn't necessarily matter if they have a diagnosis. You still need to know how to deal with them.
Right. And there's a continuum. Some people are really, really far at the end and probably would be diagnosed if they'd ever go. And other people just have some of those traits, but you still have to respond to them the same way. Mm-hmm. So I have some thoughts on that. Awesome. So one of the things you want to think about as you're trying to figure out how to deal with somebody with a personality disorder, you want to look inside and say, what are my vulnerabilities to them? So we have vulnerabilities in the divorce process, usually around money, around fear, around shame, loneliness, and our sense of, I just want to be a nice person, like I'm a good person and that's who I want to be. These are vulnerabilities because the people with the personality disorder traits know how to come in through those. They know how to trigger you through those, and you're vulnerable to kind of their manipulations that way. So what you want to do first is identify what your vulnerabilities are, and then start thinking about how to defend against them. So I have some thoughts on how to defend against them too. So money issues, you want to try to get yourself financially stable. So that means either making more money or spending less money. If you are financially stable, you're less vulnerable to your soon-to-be ex or your ex with the personality disorder who has no empathy and is inflexible. You're less vulnerable to them trying to control you through the money. If you have a lot of fear about running out of money, fear about losing your kids, fear about losing your family system, they can prey on that fear. Yeah. And so one trick I like to use with my clients is that we embrace the fear. So I have them actually say things like, thank you, fear, for trying to protect me from losing my children, So when we pull those emotions closer to us, the ones that we are most afraid of, and make friends with them to some extent, or at least have some respect for that feeling, that diminishes their power, which means we're less vulnerable to our ex saying, oh, I'm going to take the kids away from you, and triggering that fear.
Yeah.
Another one is shame. So we have a lot of shame around, I failed in this marriage, I failed my kids, I failed my family, all of that shame. And to defend against shame, you really kind of have to fake it till you make it in some cases. I actually recommend that people go get therapy around shame issues, because as long as you carry that shame with you and your ex knows how to tap into that, you're vulnerable to them. Loneliness is another one. I know many people that I work with have still that connection to their ex. They're like, oh, I'm so lonely. Maybe I made the wrong decision. Maybe we could make it work, So loneliness, what I try to ask people to do is find new methods of connection. So connecting backwards, maybe people you used to know, find them on Facebook, connecting sideways with coworkers or people who are already in your social circle, connect forward by trying something new, and connect inward by doing some therapeutic work. And what that does by connecting with other people, that insulates you so that your loneliness doesn't make you vulnerable.
That's good.
And then the last one is the idea that I'm a good person. Like, we all want to think that we're good people. And when that is paramount to us, like, I will do nothing to make it seem like I'm not a nice person, then we won't protect ourselves, we won't advocate for ourselves, we won't stand up for ourselves, and we'll be very vulnerable to someone, our ex, telling us, you're not a very good person because you are making me mad. So I would say those are kind of, in a nutshell, some suggestions. Identify your vulnerabilities and then shore up your defenses so that you can have some space.
Yeah, that's good, because exes, more than anybody else, know how to push buttons, right?
Absolutely.
Whether you have a personality disorder or not.
Right.
Exes know what's going to get under your skin. And then if they do, and they have a personality disorder, well, that's just a super fun combination.
Yes, it's a lovely combination.
So no, I think that's great. And like you were saying with it, being a good person, it is good to want to be a good person, obviously. But yeah, going into it, and this is where I recommend therapists too, is how do you draw appropriate boundaries and hold to those without becoming an inflexible jerk like they are.
Right.
You don't lose yourself either. So I think that's important work. That's some people do, because you need to advocate for yourself and not become a total pushover. But you also don't want them to turn you into them.
Right. And I would argue that most people who are on the receiving end of that personality disorder stuff from their ex are not people that can become jerks.
Yeah.
They're already such nice people. So I love that you said boundaries. Boundaries are incredibly important, and you can have boundaries in sort of your physical space, like don't let them in your house. Do pick up and drop off at school so you don't have to see each other. I really stress in my practice communication boundaries. Don't text. Try not to call. Like, I try to have my clients funnel things through the Our Family Wizard website, because it's all documented there. It's all emails. It's not back and forth all dang day. And that provides that buffer space. Because if your ex is texting you or calling you 24/7, you don't get that buffer mind space to start to heal, to be able to be stronger around them.
Yeah.
So I think communication boundaries are huge.
I agree. And just to put this out there, you don't have to be available by text. I mean, it's good in an emergency, but you can block you don't have to communicate by text. The court's not going to make you if that's not a form of communication.
Right. Also, block them on your socials.
Yes.
For the love of God, block them on your socials.
Friends, they don't have a personality, so you probably don't need to be friends on Facebook with your ex. That's probably just, at best it's neutral, at worst it can get nasty.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for these tips, Jenny. I know that can be a really big problem for people when they're working or co-parent with people that have these problems, and unfortunately they can't just never deal with them again, which would be the ideal solution probably for a lot of them. So really appreciate that. So if you are watching this and you need more information, maybe you are dealing with somebody like this and you'd like to set something up with Jenny to do a lot more work, obviously, while she had great tips, those are some of them are things that would take time to work on. You're not going to just be able to get rid of shame like that. It'd be nice.
Oh, you wish, but
yeah. Sure. You have no shame. So please reach out to Jenny and set something up. Her contact information, depending on what forum you're viewing this on, is either below you or to the side. So definitely reach out to her and set something up, because it is difficult to deal with people with these personality disorders. There is help. There are some methods that at the very least will help you keep your sanity and make you feel good about the choices you're making.
Yes. You can keep your sanity.
Exactly.
You can.
Exactly. Even if your ex is going to be a jerk, you don't have to let him or her steal that from you. So again, thank you so much, Jenny. Really appreciate you coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks.